Silent Confessions, a story of love, loneliness, and blurred boundaries. Welcome back to Silent Confessions. This is where we share untold stories of love, betrayal, and life's darkest secrets, the things that keep us up at night. Today's story, it's raw, it's unexpected, and it will leave you questioning everything. This is a true confession about infidelity, loneliness, and boundaries crossed. Let's get into it. That Friday night, the house felt so still. You know, the kind of quiet that wraps around you, like you're in a cocoon? That was it. I was dead tired from the longest week ever. Just me and my son Marcus, like it's been for the last 8 years since my divorce. Raising Marcus on my own in the outskirts of Phoenix wasn't easy, not even close, but the kid was my world. Funny, smart, kind, almost too grown up for his 19 years. Still, I knew that under that confident goofball exterior, there were parts of him he kept hidden, pain he didn't like to share. His father leaving had done that to him. That night, I barely had the energy to pull on a loose tank top and flannel shorts before collapsing onto my bed. The moonlight crept through my old curtains, painting those eerie, soft shadows across the walls. I let the warmth of my blanket pull me under, drifting into that sweet in-between of sleep and waking. But then I heard it, a soft knock at my bedroom door. I blinked hard, trying to figure out if I was dreaming. Another knock. "Mom?" Marcus's voice was quiet, careful, enough to snap me out of my haze. "Marcus," I croaked, sitting up. "What's wrong?" The door creaked open, and there he was, just a dark silhouette in the glow from the hallway. He looked unsure, like he didn't know if he should have come in at all. "I couldn't sleep," he murmured, his eyes down on the floor like a little kid caught sneaking cookies. "Come here," I said softly, patting the empty space next to me on the bed. I don't know why I said it. Maybe I just wanted to comfort him. Or maybe I wanted the comfort too. He hesitated, then came over. When he lay down beside me on his side, he looked so different, vulnerable. That playful, cocky kid I knew seemed gone. "You okay?" I whispered, brushing his messy hair out of his face like I used to when he was a kid. He shook his head. "No, I just wanted to be close to you." That's when I felt it, that warmth, the kind that spreads through your chest and makes your heart ache, but in a way that you don't quite understand. I smiled softly, putting a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay," I whispered. "You can stay as long as you need." Marcus smiled back, but something in his eyes lingered, like there was more he wanted to say, but couldn't. We lay there in silence, just listening to the house breathing around us. Eventually his breathing slowed, steady, deep. I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then he spoke so softly I almost missed it. "Do you ever miss him?" It hit me, him, his father. I didn't want to answer, but I did sometimes. Marcus sighed, his fingers tugging at the blanket. "Do you think things could have been different? If I'd been better? If I'd tried harder?" My heart shattered. I sat up, turning to face him. "Marcus, no, you didn't do anything wrong. This was never on you. Your dad made his own choices. You hear me?" He looked away, his voice small. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way. I pulled him close, wrapping my arms around him. At first he tensed, but then slowly he melted into the hug, burying his face in my shoulder. And in that moment, the lines started to blur. That warmth spread again, deeper this time. It wasn't just love. It wasn't just maternal instinct. It was something else. Something I didn't have a name for. The next morning, everything felt heavy, like the air itself had changed. Marcus slept soundly next to me, peaceful. He looked so much like the boy I'd held all those years ago, yet there was something different. I slipped out of bed and made my way to the kitchen. I let the familiar rhythm of cooking ground me, trying to shake the thoughts I couldn't control. What was I feeling? Why couldn't I push it down? When Marcus finally came downstairs, tousle-haired and sleepy-eyed, he smiled. That same boyish smile. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said, trying to sound normal, placing a plate of pancakes in front of him. "Morning," he mumbled, digging in. We ate in silence, too comfortable, and yet too loaded all at once. Finally, Marcus broke it. "Thanks for last night, Mom. I needed that." I smiled faintly, my heart hammering. "You never have to thank me, Marcus. I'll always be here for you." But as his eyes lingered on me, longer than they should have, I felt it again. That same shift, that same line, drawn so faintly in the sand that I wasn't sure where it ended or began. That afternoon, Marcus offered to help clean up the garage. The two of us spent hours sorting through boxes of memories. Old photos, his childhood toys, letters I hadn't seen in years. At one point, he picked up a framed wedding photo of his father and me. He stared at it for a while. "You looked happy," he said quietly, handing it to me. "We were for a time," I replied, feeling the weight of nostalgia pressing down. Marcus looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Do you think love ever really goes away?" "I don't know," I admitted, setting the frame aside. "Maybe it just changes shape." As we worked in silence after that, but his words stayed with me. That night, when he knocked on my door again, I didn't hesitate to let him in. We didn't speak much. He just lay beside me again, closer this time, and we let the silence fill in the gaps where words couldn't go. Some bonds are unshakable, born from years of love, pain, and shared moments. But what happens when those bonds start to change? When feelings emerge that we can't explain and boundaries blur beyond recognition? Maybe it's loneliness. Maybe it's human nature. Or maybe some lines were meant to be crossed. Thank you for listening to today's confession. If you have a story you've never dared to share, you're not alone. This is Silent Confessions. Subscribe for more untold stories. Leave a comment below. What do you think of today's confession?